Welcome to my podcast, Why Didn't Anyone Tell Me This? With my guests, we are discussing health issues, questions you may have, and debunking some of the myths around our health. And today it's a great pleasure to be chatting to one of the wild swimming legends, Sian Richardson. And we are going to talk about the Bluetits, which Sian set up. And we're going to talk all about that. Sian lives in Pencarnon, where her family have been for over 100 years. There she runs a campsite above the cliff top, and I've seen some of the videos. Go on YouTube and look at the videos. They're stunning. And all of her 5 children and her grandchildren have chosen to build their lives there too. Now, Sian has done lots of things that we're going to talk a bit about today: triathlons, psychosportive events, marathons, ultra marathons, Ironman, the Ice Mile. But the main topic for today is that she is founder and director of the Bluetits Chill Swimmers Limited. With over 100,000 members worldwide, the Bluetits has become a global phenomena. Everyone has heard of the Bluetits. And it's a great pleasure for me. I am admin for the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Bluetits. And I just can't tell you how I love our swimming community. So we're going to talk about all of those things today. So welcome, Sian. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you very much. It's marvellous to be here.
So before we talk about the Bluetits, I want to ask you about where you live and the wonderful life that you lead there. Having watched some of your videos on YouTube, seeing you swimming and just the beautiful scenery. Tell us what it's like to live there.
Well, I love it here. I was born here. My father was born here as well in 1915, and so our family have been here for a very long time, as you said. And I found it. I mean, as a child, when I got to 16, I couldn't wait to get out of here because St David's is the smallest city in Britain, and it is really very small. Even though I loved my childhood here, I was a chorister in the cathedral, so I was very much immersed in the community. Couldn't wait to get away. Wanted to go to the city, so I did, and I stayed away for about 4 years. But in that 4 years, I found every weekend I was coming home whenever I could come home. So I decided in the end that I did actually love it here and brought my children up here, and we just immersed ourselves in everything that is on offer here. So we live right above the beach. So we've always been kayakers, swimmers, coasterers, sailing, we love biking, running, all of that kind of stuff. And this is just the perfect place because there is such a massive element of freedom here. So in the summer months, St David's is full of tourists, very, very busy place, very exciting, lots of concerts going on and all of these, outside activities that you can do. But then in the winter, it's very, very quiet and it's incredibly bleak here. So you have to enjoy that side of life. You have to enjoy it being so empty and quiet. And then, of course, we have the rough seas, and we have a lot of wind here. We're on a peninsula. But we've always adapted ourselves to the seasons and we look forward to every season. So now the warmth of the summer, I mean, that kind of left a couple of weeks ago. The leaves started falling off the tree. But today, as I was walking across the garden, and there was that little nip in the air as the leaves rustled around, and I got really excited because autumn is coming. So the water is still quite warm here. It keeps on warming up until the end of September. So we have that lovely little joy that's coming at the end of the summer, the beginning of the autumn, which is the warm water. And it's quiet now. The tourists will leave next week. So I always think September is a very special month because everything is still nice and warm. And you can still go outside and enjoy things without, taking coats and jumpers and stuff. But the water, is just special and it's empty. So I love it. And my kids have all stayed here because they all enjoy that. We can just wander off to the beach and have a fire. There are no signs saying no fires here and no, where you go to places and there's all these don't do this signs. There isn't any of that here. And so they've all grown up to appreciate what we have as well, or they do now. And it's only when they go away that they come back and say, gosh, I never knew that you weren't allowed to light a fire on the beach or whatever it is. And so they love it too. So I think it's very special that they're still here with their wives, partners, grandchildren. every other kind of newcomer that comes in that they make friends with who's looking for a house. We've always got somebody else living here as well. So I just think it's a really, really special place. And wherever I go in the world, I always end up doing what my mother used to do. I go, oh, it's not like home, is it? And I do it now. Wherever I go, I'm doing that thing that my mother did. I haven't found anywhere else that's as lovely as home. So it's great. And I feel very privileged, incredibly privileged, that we are all still living here.
That's totally amazing. Does it feel like you're always on holiday?
Well, yes, I suppose so. So people say this to me, but of course we are working here. So to be able to stay here, it used to be a farm. Pencarnon used to be a working farm, and then well, I don't know, we got into the 50s, and my father started the camping here. And then my parents realized that actually, there was a living to be made from camping. So the farming kind of took a back seat really, and we've still got the farmland, but it's our next door neighbour who farms it. So we are working now to look after the tourists. So we still find time to go and sit outside on the courtyard with them at 8 o'clock tonight. There'll be people out there. We've got one of my kids now runs a little bar, the other one runs a little Pizza Hut, the other one a little coffee shop here. And so we still find time to do that. But sometimes, when a plan is made, or we're all going to meet for pizzas, and these are people who I've made friends with now over the years on the campsite, at 7 o'clock, and I'm still cleaning the loos, or I'm still sorting out some electric problem in the back field or whatever. So sometimes it feels like, everybody thinks that we're on holiday, and everybody says, oh my goodness me, your life must be one big holiday. So when I'm in a good mood, I'm like, yes. When I'm in a bad mood, I'm like, you've got to be joking. I've got 800 people here that I've got to look after. But I still think it's a privilege, because yes, we can work. If I have to work till midnight doing something else because I've been out there enjoying some time with other people in the evening, then so be it. We do that. And that's the joy again of when October comes, is the place empties. And so we do have that time, to do maintenance on the site and on the farm. And so, it is lovely because I can, of course, if I've got a spare 30 minutes in the day, I can just walk down the field and go for a swim. And I take that for granted. It's only when I now go off and I visit many other people who swim, with the Bluetits, and they say, oh, I drive an hour to my swim. And I think, an hour? Would I be that committed? I don't know, because I've always been so fortunate to live literally above a beach where I can go swimming.
We are all going to be jealous, but in the best possible way. I have to drive for at least half an hour, not quite an hour, but I just can't imagine what
Yeah.
it must be like to just be so close to the sea all the time and to the beach. Please everyone go and have a look at the videos on YouTube. They are absolutely stunning. A wonderful place. Now, for the last 9 years, since September 2014, you've been very busy on the Bluetits project. Let's first talk about the name. Now, I know that your husband coined the name, and some people say that it's just referring to women, but I'm with you. Men have tits too. So tell us about the name. I think it's a great name.
Well, it was because I'd done years and years of these triathlons, and I've never been an athlete as such. I'm not your stereotypical athlete. Then in school, I was totally non-sporty. I was always the fat girl at the back that was never chosen for anything. But I was very creative, and I was musical, and I could act. I could do all of those things. So I put all my efforts in school to being on a stage, and I love being on a stage. So I wasn't really bothered about the fact that I wasn't one of the sporty girls. But later on in life, I wasn't feeling brilliant, and I didn't know why. So I was brought up as well by a mother that was very, very, she used to say, shoulders back, tits out, off we go. Just get on with it, get on with it. So that's how I lived my life. And I was born in 1964. I'm 58 now. So back in the, when I was in my early 20s, and mental health issues, depression, or a breakdown, which used to be said under hushed tones, oh, she's had a breakdown, that kind of thing. So I kind of grew up in this world where, you didn't have breakdowns, you didn't have mental health issues, you just damn well got on with it. So when I wasn't feeling very well and I couldn't really work out what the hell, why I could only just stare at a wall, and my husband said, he said, you're not very well. He said, I think you're depressed. And I was horrified. It was a bit ridiculous. Of course, I'm not depressed. I don't get depressed. Anyway, I was. And so I took the tablets and I did everything that I was told to by the doctor, because I was totally bewildered by this thing that I'd been diagnosed with. And then after 8 months, whatever it was, I just thought, I started to feel better now, didn't I? Because I am taking the tablets. And I then thought that there's got to be something else other than tablets. So somebody said, you should take up running. They could have said swimming. They could have said cycling. They could have said riding horses, but they didn't. They said running. And that was what stuck in my head. I've got to go running. If I don't go running, I'm never going to get out of this depression. So I did, and it was a totally ridiculous thing for me to do, I thought, because I had never ever been into this at all. But long story short, I kept going. I started running in the dark because I was so mortified that anybody locally would see me running. And then I started to feel better. I really did start to feel better. And I signed up for a half marathon, which I was terrified about doing. I did it, and la-di-da, I just thought, wow, I started to just enjoy life again. And my kids got involved. My husband was, helping me. We were all going off for me to do these long distance runs, which got longer and longer and longer, then triathlons, which got bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually I was a bit knackered. My body was falling apart. And so that's when I gave up everything, triathloning, long distance and stuff. But this friend said, oh, you like a challenge, which I did by now. I really love these challenges. So she suggested I start training for the ice mile. So 4 months into training to this ice mile, my husband said one day when I came back, he said, I haven't seen you this happy for such a long time. He said, you're loving this. He said, you should call yourself something funny. He said, the blue tits is funny because you come back and your tits are blue. And I just laughed and I thought, yeah, the blue tits. The blue tits suits my sense of humour. I've always got a little bit of a warped sense of humour, in the sense, I love things that are inappropriate in life. I love people who are inappropriate. And so it was funny. And then initially, as men started to join us, we thought, oh, blue tits, we'll call them the bluebells. Ha, 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 let's do this. But then when we became a social enterprise, and we'd always been, anybody could join. I've never been that type of person that likes to segregate genders. I think my attitude is we're all humans. Come on, let's just have some fun together as human beings. And so when we became a social enterprise, a limited company, we just decided that we would just be one. We would just be the blue tits. And so, yeah, you can analyze it, and I'm sure people do. Oh, it's to do with women. But, no, we've all got tits. Different sizes, different shapes. We're all there. So that's how we are now, just collectively, however you identify, you are the blue tits. And it makes people laugh. And I think,
yeah, totally agree. We have men in our group. People, they're great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've never judged people by how they identify. I never see people as having, now with people identifying in all sorts of ways. I've always been like that anyhow. I love it. I like nice humans. I like people. If they're not nice, then they're not nice people. If they're nice people, they're nice people. It doesn't matter how they identify. To me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so it started off. So your husband coined the name. You were training for the ice mile, but then I think from what I've seen you being interviewed before, a momentum started, and I think you're a bit like the Pied Piper, and more people started to swim with you. And now, now we're at this huge, big, wonderful family of people that swim. So tell us more about the beginning.
Well, it was 2014, and so it was October. I chucked away my wetsuit and I went swimming here on the beach, just me and this friend. It was 13 degrees, and I'd been a wetsuit swimmer now for about 10 years. And so I got in the water and I was absolutely shocked what 13 degrees felt like. I really was that naive, and it was like, bloody hell, 13 degrees is freezing. And you've got to do the ice mile in anything under 5 degrees in just a swimsuit. So, of course, my thoughts went straight to 5 degrees, like, what the hell is 5 degrees going to feel like? But I Googled all of this ice miling, and not many women, still not many women had done it, but not many women had completed it. Not many men, not many humans had completed it, to be honest. But it was still, a really weird thing that was started in South Africa in 2011. And so I was intrigued. I wanted to do it. And I thought I was going to do it quite easily, even though I thought 13 degrees was cold. I still thought that I was quite tough. I am tough. I'm quite mentally tough as well. So I thought, oh, I'll crack this out in one season. Well, blimey. It took me 3 seasons of winter swimming to actually get my head round doing this ice mile. But as we started this, we thought, well, we'll swim in different places around Pembrokeshire in that winter because it made it fun. And we were constantly looking for colder water. So the sea doesn't really get below 7 degrees here. I mean, that's cold if it gets to 7. So we were going inland and we were finding what little lakes or reservoirs or anything basically that was getting colder. And I'm very noisy. And so I would scream when I went into the water, with delight, or I'd start singing or whatever it was. And so people were walking on the beaches in the winter, all muffled up in their coats and hats and whatever. And then there's this woman walking down the beach in a swimsuit. And so, of course, they were compelled to come and say to me, what are you doing? I mean, some people were, what are you doing? What are you doing? Somebody called me an idiot. Somebody said I was incredibly irresponsible. But I soon learned that people would wait for me on the shore. So I learned to put my clothes quite near to the shore because I was cold when I came out of the water and I needed to get dressed, quickly. And I hadn't been in very long. I'd only been in 5 minutes, but this was the beginning. That was enough to get me really cold. And so there was a few people who said, I'd like to do it. There were a few people, of course, who said, oh, I've been doing this all my life. I've been swimming. I don't know what's all the fuss about. I've been doing this all my life. And they asked, could they join me? And so very, very slowly, people started to join. So there was probably, after the first year, there was 10 of us in Pembrokeshire. And we were all dotted around Pembrokeshire. So we'd drive to each other's swim spot, and then we'd started taking food and flasks and blankets. And we'd still be sitting there an hour and a half later, somewhere talking and laughing. And people again would come up, what have you lot been up to? And so then we'd start talking. And so it started to grow. But then the real massive growth, of course, came in lockdown. So, well, just previous to lockdown, people were coming here in the summer, of course, for their holidays. And I was now swimming longer distance in the sea in a swimsuit. So even seeing somebody in August in a swimsuit was quite interesting to people because so many people, and I saw it happen here, they'd come on their holiday, they'd buy a cheap wetsuit and they go swimming for a week and then they leave their wetsuit because they don't want it again. It's only some cheap thing that they bought. People had got into this habit of thinking that you had to put neoprene on to get in the water. When we were children, there weren't such a thing as wetsuits. Only very rich people had wetsuits. So they were seeing me now swimming in the summer months in this swimsuit. So, gosh, have you just swum right across the bay in a swimsuit? And I'm like, yeah, I have. Blimey, how do you do that? Or why are you doing that? So we had a few people who were on holiday. And then I said, oh, we've called ourselves the Bluetits, who went home to wherever they were living. And they started to set up the Bluetits group in, like, Tooting was one of the first ones. Gower was one of the first ones. And this was a very loose affair then. I had no plans whatsoever, other than I would give them a whole bag of badges, which I bought because I have a thing about badges. And then they'd give out little badges. So it started to grow slowly. And then lockdown happened. And of course, people couldn't go to leisure centres. They couldn't go to the gym. They couldn't do their usual exercise routine. So they started thinking about other things. And because we've got the Facebook groups where people join, and they interact with each other to arrange the swims, they'd heard about this. So they joined the Facebook groups just to see what was going on and just to get some social interaction with people. So when we were then allowed to go out, of course, what did people do? They went to the one place they could because leisure centres didn't open straight away. They went swimming. So it went bonkers after lockdown. Absolutely bonkers. It just went up by the tens of thousands very, very, very quickly. And again, I thought, well, it won't last. This is all because everybody's now desperate for a little bit of exercise with other human beings. But it has lasted and it's continued to grow. But then, of course, we took on a team of people as well here at Bluetits HQ. So that has obviously helped it to grow. And it's morphing, it morphs all the time. Like now we've got a lot of people who are non-swimmers that are joining us, just because they want some social interaction with people and they're lonely. This is one of the things that's being stated a lot at the moment around here, because we live in this beautiful holiday area, and so people come on holiday all their lives, and then when it comes to retirement, a lot of people retire here because they've grown over the last 30 years loving this area, and they're lonely. They come here and they don't know anybody. So that's been a lot of chat recently about loneliness. And this one really gets my heart, that people are lonely. They're not lonely for long, of course, once they join the Bluetits, because they make friends, and it's a lovely thing. But I love the way that it changes. You know, it's people saying they're coming along for their mental health or their physical health, and now loneliness has started to come in. So it just seems to be this wonderful community where people can discuss anything, be anything, make friends, you know, heal themselves, you know. And what is it? What is it just about? It's a bunch of human beings being kind to each other and doing this incredible little thing in the middle. You know, they turn up and there's all the talk, and then they do this amazing thing, which is exposing their bodies and going into cold water. And then, of course, there's that massive adrenaline afterwards, and they make friends and they talk rubbish, you know, and they just have a great time together, and they're kind to each other. So it all seems very simple, doesn't it? That we just crave being in a community that's where we're all kind to each other. And I kind of thought the whole world was like that, because I, you know, live in this wonderful part of Pembrokeshire, tucked away from everywhere. But the whole world isn't like that, is it? So I love this community that we created. And now when people say to me, thank you for starting this community, I will take the thanks. But straight away, I will say to you, and thank you for keeping it going. Because if it wasn't for all these people joining and extending the hand of friendship to the next people in line, it wouldn't work, would it? So it's everybody. And isn't that amazing that there's thousands of people who are all thinking like Bluetits, you know, let's be kind, let's bring more people in, let's encourage people to really believe they can do that thing that they've always wanted to do. So I love it every single day. I love it when we get messages. Of course we do, you know, all the time messages are coming in, emails are coming in, life stories are coming into us. And I love it. Absolutely love it.
I'm going to say thank you as well, because for me, lockdown for sure. I was always swimming, but not so seriously, and had started doing it more regularly. One of my friends has swum the channel, Jessica Hepburn, to overcome her sadness about failed fertility treatment. And anyway, I'd been out with her, and I started that, and it was just before lockdown. But I always say that lockdown saved me. Swimming saved me during lockdown. Without regularly going swimming, and I did have to get in the car, I did have to drive, and we were allowed in the UK, in England. Sorry, in England we were allowed to drive, but I was driving a little far. And I just thought, if anyone stops me, everyone kept saying, aren't you worried about being stopped? And I said, well, I'm not officially breaking a rule, but without swimming, I think I would have really gone crazy. And the friendships, you said about the friendships, everyone I've met, I've been to Bluetits groups in other countries as well. But in the UK, I know I can go anywhere and hitch up with a Bluetits group, and it will be full of wonderful, wonderful people who are so caring and so thoughtful. And that is just so amazing. And thank you again. Thank you so much for starting this. They are beautiful people. And I think, you know, what's great, we're all people that we don't want to sit inside. We don't want to sit on the sofa and miss, you know, the sunrise, the sunset, the wonderful weather. And I hate people that moan about UK weather. You know, we've got a beautiful country here that's just so amazing. And you mentioned noise. We are noisy. We do swear. When we're getting in the water, I think we're allowed to swear. And people, you probably have this. People always say to me, you know, people walking by, oh, what's the temperature? Or is it cold? I have an answer to that, which involves a swear word, so I won't say. I say, yes, it's effing cold. But yeah, but then we just laugh because it's such an amazing community. And now some of my best friends that I do other things with, like go to festivals and things, were people that I met through swimming. Now, I wanted to talk about body confidence. I know you've talked about this before, and we definitely have communities. We're all different shapes and sizes, and I've never known anyone to criticize the Bluetits. We celebrate this, and we're amazing. We're walking around, as you said, in our swimming costume, normally in winter or a cold day or whatever. And so, did you want to say a little bit more about body confidence?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. So I'm a very confident person in general. But I've been all shapes and sizes all my life. So I have never, ever been the same size. You know, I've got all these chapters in my life. I've got a wardrobe full of clothes from size 12 to 20. And I never throw anything like I love out just based on its size, because I can be that size again, I know. And so I've always had I've never been massively confident about my body. And when I started swimming in a swimsuit, I wasn't hugely confident. Was I fat or thin? I can't remember. I think I was probably a little bit fat at that point. And not that it makes any difference whether I'm fat or thin. You know, I don't have that confidence in how I look then. I never have really. And I mean, now it doesn't even cross my mind because I spend my life in a swimsuit. But I noticed that, and I still notice it, of course, that initially there was some people here who were watching us swim, and they weren't joining us. So one day I just went over and said, you know, I've noticed you here on this beach a few times watching us. Do you want to come and swim? Oh yeah, no, I'd love to, one of them said, but and she gesticulated to her body. She said, nobody wants to see this in the water. And I was like, so at this time now, I'd already started to see people overcoming this body thing in a couple of swims. You know, I'd seen them getting undressed under their robe on the first swim, second swim, third swim. Fourth swim, no, the robe would come off, the cosy would come on. And I'd noticed the pattern starting with people, how 2 or 3 swims and they didn't care. They dropped their knickers, you know, or they'd say, oh, sod it, I'm not putting my knickers on today. Everything just started to people started to give less of a shit, basically. So when she said this, I said, oh, nobody cares, nobody minds, nobody looking. Well, those words were useless. She wasn't going to believe me because, you know, of course I'm going to say that nobody cares. And I thought, well, there's nothing I can say here. There's nothing that I can do that is going to convince you, because you have to know this in your head. You have to feel confident. And then as time went on, I heard other people when they eventually joined, and I said, why now then? Why have you chosen this week? And this particular person said, because I've been watching your page for the last 6 months. And then the other day I saw 2 people getting in the water who looked like me. They were old and fat like me, were the words, which I didn't really pay much attention to. And then as time went on again, I thought, this is what people are doing. And it happens now all around the country all the time. So people join the Facebook groups and they're waiting to see a picture of somebody who they can relate to, as old as them, as thin as them, with the same length hair or whatever it is that's in their heads. They want to see a picture of somebody who they can relate to. And so, which is why I always encourage people, put pictures in the page. Say we've just had a wonderful swim at Perranporth, and put a picture up, because people are watching. They're watching to see, is this herd the herd for them? You know, are there other creatures in this herd that look like them? And so that is a wonderful way of getting people. They turn up, I'm going to be okay now. I'm going to be okay. There's another 78-year-old person in that group, so I'm going to be okay. Of course, within a few weeks, they realize that that is now irrelevant. They were always going to be okay. And they've also learnt in a few weeks that people are dropping their knickers and losing their knickers. They are bending over and flashing an arse, you know, a big, juicy arse cheek or whatever it is. And nobody minds, because now the confidence has started to grow in you. And you're also realizing, because you're listening to different stories. You know, we had a lady who was going through some really nasty cancer treatment. Lovely, fun, lovely lady. And she went through it. She couldn't swim with us, but her husband was bringing her, she was sitting down with us, and she'd talk to us. And we watched what hell she went through. And that in turn made us all look at our own bodies at the time and go, do you know what? I might think I'm 2 stone overweight, or I'm too tall, or my feet are too big, but this body works. It actually works. It gets me here. It gets me in the water. It gets me out of the water. And that is this lady's attitude to life now, because she survived. And she is brilliant at telling her story and enabling people to, maybe if it's only tiny, celebrate the fact you are alive. And I think that is the general joy of Bluetits, because we have so many people who've come into the group who were body conscious or conscious of their age or whatever it was they were conscious of. And they've soon realized that actually it's okay. We're alive. Let's live what we've got. Even though we might never love our bodies, we might always think we're too thin or we're too fat, or we don't like the wrinkles all over our face. On these Zoom things, that we're doing, you're looking at yourself, you're thinking, where the hell did that one come from? But it's that joy of celebrating life, which seems to be this infectious thing in the Bluetits. And again, I think that comes from different ages and genders. When we're in the group here, we're 18 up to 78. We've got a whole range of people that come along, and we've got the young people who are worried about their boyfriends and their periods, or the fact that their voice hasn't dropped yet, or whatever it is. And then they're talking to the older people who are going, you'll be fine, don't worry about it. My voice didn't drop till I was 16, la-di-da-di-da. And then they've got us talking about the menopause, and they're seeing that we're surviving the menopause. Or we've got someone who's lost their wife has died, and they're surviving with the support of others. So you've got all these different issues in life that lots of people have at different ages. And then we're all interacting and talking to each other. And I just think that is brilliant. When we have new young people that come along, I feel that's so special, because we've got all these new young problems. And we'll say, what does that word mean? Tell me what that word means. Or can you show me how this works on Facebook, please? Simple things like that may be irrelevant things. But you've got all these different ages helping each other with problems that seem to be more prevalent, at certain ages in life. And I think then that the whole body confidence thing just comes from being around lots and lots of different people, doesn't it? And, taking that really bold step to be basically half naked. Even if you're putting a wetsuit on, you're still out there, because wetsuits give you this weird body shape anyhow. So I think it just comes, but you will never convince people of this. They have to come along. I always say, if I can get them to the meet, I will get them into the water. But you've got to get them there in the first place, which is why I love the new trend of dry Bluetits. I love this new thing that's happening now, where people aren't swimming, and they'll always apologize for it. I hope it's all right, but I don't want to swim. But I went to my local doctor's, and she said, if you're feeling a bit lonely, join the Bluetits, because it's a lovely social group. So I don't want to swim. And we're all like, yeah, fine, it's not a problem. Here, hold my towel, or light the fire for us, or whatever it is. So they're coming into this community, and so they are now looking. And I never ask them why they don't want to swim. Sometimes they will say, why they don't want to swim, but a lot of the time it's because they have lost confidence. They don't think that their wrinkly body anybody wants to see what they consider to be old, fat, skinny, wrinkly, whatever, swollen ankles. But by getting them there, they are starting to see all the wonderful different shapes, sizes and ages that turn up. And more often than not, they will swim eventually, or paddle. They'll come up to their knees and they'll have a paddle. We've got a few at the moment who are still, oh, no, just knee height. Thank you very much. That's fine. And I'll stay with them. I stay on the shore and we splash water around and we have a great time. Or somebody else will always do it as well. So I think that body confidence, of course, is always going to be an issue in a society where everything, all the media is this perfect, idea of what the perfect body should be looking like. Although I think that is changing now as well. I think that the power, all these hundreds and thousands of people who are swimming, not just Bluetits, but of course all these other groups that go swimming, are starting to change this, because magazines, clothing companies, you're now starting to see a much more diverse amount of people. And whereas a few years ago, if a clothing company used a model that was a size 14, you'd look at it and go, oh, well, they're being very diverse, aren't they? Using a larger model. Now it's not unusual to see 16, 18s, 20 size people and wrinklies like me. I'm starting to see older people being used, which is wonderful, isn't it? I love that it's not just, very, very skin, very tall, thin, young people being used as clothes model. So I think things are changing. It'll take a while, of course it will. But I think we are changing. I think Bluetits and wild swimmers, worldwide, are changing people's perceptions. You see an awful lot of more people now in swimsuits by bathing spots, don't you, than you did years ago. So I'm hoping that younger people are seeing that there isn't one body type. There is no perfect body type, is there? And the other thing of having youngsters in the group, particularly youngsters, because they seem to talk more about body issues, is that we had one swimming with us. So she was stereotypically beautiful in every way. She's 6 foot, blonde hair, very, very attractive looking, and probably she was a size 8. And somebody said, we were having a group photo one day, and somebody said, oh, I'm not standing next to you because you're going to make me look really fat. And she called her a skinny bitch. I'm not going to stand next to a skinny bitch like you. And I saw the skinny bitch's face. So afterwards I said, so what was with the face? I said, what happened there? And she said, all my life, people have called me a skinny, and they've added the word bitch to the end of it. A skinny bitch. And she said, that's all I've ever had. And she said, and everybody says, oh, you make me look fat. She said, this is my life. And that changed everything that day, for me in particular, where I realized that it doesn't matter what the world thinks you look like. You can still think of yourself as not fitting in. So you can be a stereotypically perfect skinny bitch, but you have had that all your life. So you see that as a derogatory thing. And that was life-changing for me when she said that. So there isn't just one type of person that has an issue with their body. It's all of us. We all have something in there. And that's what I love about this community of different ages and different genders, is that we realize that actually we're no different to anybody else. We're okay. We're all okay. And we're alive. And that's what I think
Yeah.
starts to change the way of thinking. We celebrate life, don't we?
We do celebrate life. And I think it's really important what you said about putting photos on. And we always put photos. My phone is full of lovely photos of beautiful people in our swimming costumes. But I think every group probably has quite a lot of people who are in the wings. So this dry swimming, I think I'm going to put that. We've got a moon swim tomorrow, and I'll put that on the group. If you're not thinking of swimming, come along. Just come along, celebrate. We have people bringing drums and tambourines, crazy people jumping around. So yeah, I think that's a really good idea. But I said this sense of community, I think that's so important. And especially as we get older, I think loneliness, as you mentioned, can really come in. So the Bluetits is a fabulous sense of community, whether you're swimming or not. But with the swimming, we've got, besides we've all got to strip off basically, and yeah, we actually normally don't bother with underwear at all. We can't be bothered, so we sort of sometimes realize we've got to go to Tesco's and we're wearing a onesie or something with no underwear, highly inappropriate. We just don't care. But I think the other thing is, when we get in the water, if you look at all of the photos, the smile on people's faces, and this is what I always say to everyone, if you're wondering whether you want to join us, just look at the smiles and the radiance of the people when we're in the water, when we're getting out of the water. It's so good, as you've mentioned, so good for our mental health. Absolutely wonderful. But what about those people who haven't started yet, haven't put their big toe in the water? What would your advice be to them for their first swim?
My advice to, because you get a lot of interest, don't you, when people find out what you do. I often hear, oh, I'd love to do that, but and they will come up with all sorts of things. I don't think I could wear a swimsuit. I don't think I could stand the cold. Oh, I don't like jellyfish. I don't like weaver fish. I don't like sharks, whatever it is that they have in their mind. And I always say, stop overthinking this. Just don't overthink it. Because of all the things I've ever done, the long distance stuff, the triathlons, whatever, I used to have sleepless nights overthinking. And whatever I thought was going to happen to me never happened to me. It was all the things that I had never, ever dreamt of happened to me. But because I was full of adrenaline, or because I had the support I needed around me, I always sorted out those issues really, really quickly because my mind was fired up, and I was doing things. So I always say, now, don't overthink this. Don't start thinking that you're going to make a fool of yourself. You're going to keep on thinking this. I know that. But, that's another big thing. Am I going to make a fool of myself? Am I going to fit in? And I would say, just stop thinking. Keep watching the page, join the Facebook page, because that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that you're going to be spotted on there and someone's going to go, you have to come along to a swim. So that everybody just leaves you be. And then keep watching, and then one day it'll just hit you for whatever reason. Sod it, I'm going to do it. Because a lot of people do this in the new year, because it's the new year you thing, isn't it? We think, I'm going to change, I'm going to do this. Just come along. And I say, and you don't need to put a swimsuit in your bag. So you don't even need to commit that much. Don't, if that worries you, putting the swimsuit in your bag, don't do it. Just come along and be there. And then if they smile at this and I think, oh, I say, but no, just put the swimsuit in your car so you always know there's a swimsuit in your car. I mean, this happened to somebody the other day, and she said, oh, I decided to do it, but I didn't have a swimsuit. And of course, I whipped a swimsuit out of my bag and said, what about this one? Will it do? And she said, okay, I'll do it. And she did. But that's why I would say, don't overthink it, and don't commit yourself to anything that you don't want to do. Just say, I'm going to turn up today. I don't want to swim. Thank you very much. I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to watch you. Because that is the first massive step, is saying, I am going to turn up. And so don't worry about it. Bring a friend, bring your father, your mother, or whatever, and make an excuse that you're just bringing them along because they want to sit by the sea. Doesn't matter what excuse you make to get you there. Stop overthinking. And again, the other one is with a friend, of course. People, oh, I don't know if I can come by myself. Well, that's easy. Just bring a friend and say to the friend, we're not going to swim. Don't commit yourself to actually swimming with sharks. You don't need to worry about swimming with sharks, not yet. And that often is enough to get people to come along. And they then will say, as soon as they arrive, I'm not swimming. And I go, I know you're not swimming. That's fine. And then they just know that they're going to be welcome. And the more that happens, which is happening a lot round here now, that step is getting easier. I don't need to say that quite as much as I used to. You're not going to be made to swim. People now know they're not going to be forced or feel compelled or feel left out because they haven't gone in the water. So sometimes I don't swim. Often with swims, particularly when I know they're going to be busy ones, like in August, I deliberately don't swim. And I do that just to show people that it's absolutely okay. And I also deliberately wear a wetsuit sometimes, just to show people it's okay. I will always get a jibe from somebody, somebody who's been in the Bluetits group for 4 years. What are you doing in a wetsuit? And I'm like, and they go, oh yeah, sorry. Because I'm always very conscious of that. Don't make any fuss about what people wear. Even like we have one lady who wears full wetsuit, hat. She has the hat on, the thingies, the gloves, and the boots. And she's always done it like that. She's never once been tempted to take it off. And I look at her and think, have you never been tempted to take it off? Obviously she hasn't. But it's just that you're aware of that, so that's why I do it. Then I do all of those things just to make people know that it's okay, Because once you've been a blue tit for a while, you know it's okay to be you. You know, no matter how quirky you are, you know it's okay, but you don't necessarily know that initially. You know, you might think, oh, I'm an absolute weirdo. No one's going to accept me. You know, because we have one lady who always has two toe floats, and we call her two floats because she had an accident when she was younger, and she likes to have two floats with her. And she's okay about it now. You know, when people ask her, she will say, but initially she was a little bit, you know, because she said, oh, I can't do this because I can only do, I need two floats. And so we all said, well, use two floats then. And she said, well, I'm just going to look like a twat. And I said, and so? It doesn't matter. You know, it's fine to be you, whatever you do. And so when somebody says, oh, I feel as if I should put gloves on because, I said, put gloves on then. Do what you want. Nobody minds. In fact, people love it because then you've got an experience of what helped you carry on swimming. Oh, it was gloves. Oh, it was booties. Oh, it was nose plugs. Oh, it was a hairnet. Whatever it is that makes it easier for you to get in the water. I encourage people, go for it, do these crazy things. Even, you know, I don't mean crazy with two floats. I mean, as in go in and try two floats. Some lady we had was fins. She was terrified of deep water until she put swim fins on. And then her life changed. As soon as she knew she could really get herself out of the cold water by powering out with fins on, that was fine. And then 6 months later, the fins disappeared. She didn't need them any longer. So it's great when you're in a group of people, when you say, oh, I can't do this because somebody in that group will say, oh, I did this and that helped me. And then suddenly your life will be like, oh my God, I can now do this thing that I never thought I could. So yeah,
Fantastic.
don't overthink it.
I always say to everyone, swim your own swim. We're all different. We've all different shapes and sizes. We've had different things to eat. Some are tired, some are not tired. So many things can affect it. So I personally started off in a really rubbishy wetsuit with the view that I won't get a good one because I'll get a rubbishy one because I want to take it off eventually. And did that for a few months. And then what I've loved, one of the many things is your body adapts and it makes you feel so strong that your body's changed. So when you get to the stage where, or you start off with wearing a swimsuit, and as you said, you might have gloves. I mean, I went for a few months wearing a rash top and I don't know why, I think it made it colder. But, you know, I don't wear gloves or socks in the summer now, but I do put them on in winter. But then we'll have people in our group with full wetsuits, as you've said. Some of my friends have done the polar bear challenge and gone the whole year with no socks, no gloves, no hats. So everyone's got to do their own thing, and it's great. So one more question about the Bluetits. How do people join the Bluetits?
Well, so each group has their own Facebook group, which has the name Bluetits in there somewhere. So we've got the Bluetits of Perranporth, Peterborough and Cambridge Bluetits, you know, it's all in there. And so you basically go on Facebook. Well, no, if you were new to this completely, you'd go to the Bluetits website and find the Find My Flock, and then a map opens up, and on there are all logos. You click on the logo and it takes you to the Facebook group. And then you request to join and you go along. So when people first join the group, they're not massively keen to start posting swims. Of course they're not. You know, they don't necessarily know the area or know anybody. So they go along to swims that people who've been in there longer start posting. So I might say, swimming at White Sands, 5 o'clock, Wednesday the 14th, everybody welcome, or full moon swim, or silly hat swim, whatever it is. And then you just go along to the swim. With a friend. You can take anybody you like with you, and then you get given your little blue tit badge and you're a blue tit. You might decide actually it's not for you and you never swim again. Doesn't matter, you're still a blue tit. You'll always be a blue tit. But then you can go along, and then as the confidence grows, you might be the type of person that starts posting swims yourself, or you might not. You might never be that person. You might never want to post your own swims, because that in itself takes courage. Oh, nobody's going to come. I'm going to be on my own. You know, I still think that. And it happens. I'm not the most popular person on the block, so it's not necessary if I post a swim that any bugger's going to come. So it's, you often, I do that now. I always say to some people who I'm more close to, you will come to my swim on Wednesday, won't you? And they'll say, yes, yes, I'll be there. So there'll always be somebody else there. But that's how you do it. Go onto the website, find my flock, find your group locally, click on it, join. There you go. You're off. That's it. You've done it. And you can do that, of course, when you go on holiday, which now more and more people do, this Tits on Tour. So wherever they go on holiday, they look to see if there's a blue tit group, they click, they join, and then they might leave that group, of course. So after being on holiday for a week in Bude, they stay on the group and then they leave the group. So you've always got people going in and out of the groups, for various reasons, but you can do that anywhere in the world. So somebody we had last week went to Australia and she joined one of the blue tit groups in Australia and went swimming with them. I love it. And even if people won't swim with you in other places, I was in Hale a couple of years ago, and they've only had a small group there and there was nobody available to swim with me, but people on the group said, go here at high tide, it's really safe, go round the corner, you can have a really nice cup of coffee in the da-di-da coffee shop. So you'll always get help from blue tit groups as well, wherever you are, about the best swim spot. So I like that. It's just like this trip advisor for blue tits. I think it's great. We were going to do that years ago. We were going to call it Tit Advisor, but then we thought that maybe that wouldn't be the best thing to be Googling Tit Advisor. You probably wouldn't get things about swims. You get information about other things.
And I call myself a blue tit tart because I've stayed a member of lots of groups, so I'm not near the sea. It's at least about an hour and 15 minutes to the sea, but I've joined lots of the Essex coastal groups, which I stay a member of, and we've already got a ritual now. Every January, my birthday, I organise a swim. I've done 3 years of them now, and we get the tits from all the groups come along, and we all do a big swim together in January. So there's so many different options, and all of the people that you meet they really really will be wonderful. Now, Sian, you have done a lot of challenges. You said how much you like challenges. You've done the Ice Mile, you've done triathlons, you've done Ironman. What was the hardest challenge that you did? Is that possible to say the hardest one?
Yeah, the Ice Mile. The Ice Mile. That was the most difficult. So all the other things, I'm always at the back of everything I ever tried. So I was always a have a go hero. I was there starting, and I would always be the one, if there was somebody whose tire had burst, I would stop and I would help them. I always wanted to get to the end alive if possible, but if I didn't ever get to the end of something, or I was pulled out, as in Ironman, I never got to the end of Ironman. I was pulled out because I was too slow. It didn't really bother me. I was always in it to see if I could train, if I could get to the start line. That, again, like joining the Blue Tits, that's the courage, is that first step, is getting somewhere. To actually start something, it takes masses of courage. But you could always, I don't say get out at any time, but there was never any pressure then. I wasn't, as every minute ticked by, I wasn't dying. Whereas in the Ice Mile, every minute that ticked by, I was getting closer and closer to hypothermia. And so I'd been swimming for years, of course, and I'd been, heads down swimming, obviously with the triathlons, but I'd never managed, and still haven't managed, to be a very fast anything. I'm not a fast runner, I wasn't a fast cyclist, and I'm not a fast swimmer, even though now I swim quite well. I've had a lot of coaching, and I'm not a bad swimmer. But speed is something that's always eluded me. I'm just not built for speed, but I am built for endurance. And so when it came to the Ice Mile and I was doing a lot of training, I wasn't actually getting any faster. So I knew I was going to have to do an extreme Ice Mile, which is basically, there's lots of different reasons you do an extreme Ice Mile. Like Kath Pendleton is an extreme Ice Miler because she swam in 0.6 degree water. I was an extreme Ice Miler because it took me 47 minutes to swim a mile. So anything over 45 minutes is classed as an extreme Ice Mile. So I had trained for this. I had basically trained to become hypothermic, and I had a whole team around me who knew exactly how to help me recover. But running up to the training, the last winter, of course, I was training 3 times a week. So 3 times a week, I was getting extremely cold. I'm not going to say I was hypothermic, but I was bored. I was going in that direction. And so I'm recovering. So my body was a little bit tired. And the reason I did it on the day was because the temperature was going to be fine. The water temperature was going to be fine. And the sun was out. So I said, sod it. You know what? I can't do this anymore. I cannot train for this bloody ice mile any longer because I'm so tired. And then on the day, adrenaline got me through. Of course it did, because as soon as I hit that water, I thought, right, I do not want to do this ice mile again. I do not want to try and do this ice mile again. So I'm going to damn well finish this ice mile today, unless, of course, I had to be pulled out because you've got people watching your stroke. You've got people, I have to give my thumbs up every length and this kind of stuff. So if that all went tits up, they just pull you out, no questions asked. And after I did it, and I thought, thank goodness for that. And people say, doing it again? Not a chance. Not a chance am I doing that again. It was one of the most, it was the most difficult thing because it was very mentally challenging as well. I was constantly convincing myself that, because people will say it to you as well about that, more than even Ironman. People will say, I can't believe you're doing it. What's the matter with you? There must be something wrong with you. Oh my God, you're going to die. All of these things. And, you're reading, about me in the media, how people fall into rivers and they're hypothermic in 10 minutes. We know that they're not, but that's what the media says. They, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm doing this stupid ice mile. I think there's only ever been 45 extreme ice milers. And so, I mean, there's now about 300 ice milers in the world, but only 45 of us are extreme ice milers. So this
Wow.
is in my head, playing with my brain all the time. You're stupid. Why are you doing this? And da 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 da. And so that was the most difficult thing I have ever done. And whereas I don't run or do triathlons anymore, but I'd give one a go. I wouldn't give no, I don't want to do an ice mile again. I mean, I love it, but it's also one of my proudest things, of course. I so love the fact that I did it, but I do not want to do it again. Thank you very much. It was marvelous. But yeah, it was when it comes to triathlons, Ironman was difficult as well, but it was slightly beyond me. And I kind of knew that. It was the last triathlon I ever did, and I kind of knew that it was beyond me at the particular time. My hips had already started to disintegrate, and there was a lot of pain going on. But I always say it's that one of the hardest things is to start. So I was determined to stand on that start line. It would have been really easy if I'd said, "Oh, my hips are hurting. I can't do this now," because I trained for 2 years, so I'd been training for a long time to do it, and I was terrified on that start line. But I thought, put your money where your mouth is. You're telling people to do this all the time. You're telling people, just start. Don't worry if you don't finish. Start. And you find a different you. Every time you start something, you find another little bit of courage in you that you never knew you had. But if you don't start, you won't find that. So even though it was, I didn't finish it, and it was pretty, I was upset at the time. I would like to call myself an Ironman. But I'm still very proud of the fact that I started Ironman. But the ice mile, such a difficult, goodness me. And I see some people doing it. I've seen one person doing it, and they just got up and walked away at the end, and they went, yeah, that was all right. That was all right. But, oh my goodness me. No, 47 minutes I was in that water. And the record is
Wow.
1 hour and 2 minutes. So it has crossed my mind to do an ice mile in 1 hour and 3 minutes, so I get the record for the slowest person. But no, that goes out my mind very quickly.
No, I'm
But
not surprised. And
it's doable.
you did big challenges, but people can do little challenges. And as you say, the buzz
Yeah,
from doing a challenge, do,
yeah,
set yourself
yeah,
little challenges. So yeah, I
yeah.
definitely a bit of advice. Yeah.
And that's why I love our events, because people come along and they're doing a 50-meter at one of our Bluetits events. I treat them with the same respect if they were doing 50 meters as if they were swimming the channel. Like our swim coach, Michaela, just did the channel. She was at that point in her life, in her challenging life, where she was ready for the channel. But 10 years ago, she was doing 50 meters. Now, some people never go beyond that. That's enough for them. And then there are people, I'm one of them, who always tries to go bigger and longer until I get to the point where I can't do anything any longer. Oh, that's it. I've reached my limit. Thank you very much. I'm done. But when I see people going in to do their 50-meter swim at Lake 32 or wherever we are, it gets me every time, because I just think you are incredible. It's taken you the same amount of courage that it takes Michaela or takes me when I'm doing the ice mile. You know, we're all at different stages, but the amount of courage it takes doesn't lessen because you're only doing 50 meters. This is huge for you. I have so much respect for people that come to these events and do this, and they say, this is my first swim. And it just gets me. I think good for you, because the first big step was joining the Bluetits. You did it. And then you immersed yourself in that community. You grew in confidence by going along to the swims and laughing and joking and having a marvelous time with people. And now you've moved on to the next level in your swim career, which is a 50-meter fun swim. And like this year now, we've got 60 Bluetits going out to Estonia to the World Ice Swimming Championships. And that again is phenomenal. You know, it's great. And I don't see it, even if you never do events, to me, I still think you are awesome for turning up and swimming and showing your body to the world. That is enough for me. You know, I think that is brilliant. But it's whatever then else you choose to do is equally as brilliant. But I think, and I like this about the Bluetits, you never feel as if you have to do more. I think you are, when you join the Bluetits, you become a Bluetit and you're accepted and you are, you know, you're embraced and you're loved and all of that. I personally don't think there's ever any pressure to do more. And that's what I always wanted about the Bluetits. So even though I celebrate Michaela crossing the channel, I celebrate you for joining the Bluetits. You know, I don't celebrate Michaela more because she's gone on and done this thing. That was her choice to go that far. Your choice is just to have a little dip once a week in the Bluetits, then bloody good on you. I think you are awesome for doing that. And I think Bluetits in general think that as well. There is never, there is not, oh, well, I swam 58 meters last year in 4-degree water. You don't hear that. I mean, yes, you do. You hear, oh, I swam a meter in 1 degree. Ha, 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 ha. But it's not like a badge of honor. You know, it's not this. And
No,
you know, that's what we do with the Bluetits coaching. When we learned early on with the swimming lessons that we started doing here. You never ask somebody. The first question never is, how far can you swim? Immediately that's put a doubt in somebody's head. Oh, I didn't realize I was supposed to have been able to swim 5 meters. It's not a question that's ever asked, because it's just like, well done, you're here. Now we're going to start swimming. Here we go. I love that. And I think that's a general thing in the Bluetit community, really, that there are no badges of honor necessarily because you've swum the channel. You know, your badge of honor is gained as soon as you enter the group. That's it. Well done, you're here. Now let's go forth together and do whatever.
that's beautiful. We've joined the Bluetits. Even if we get in the water for 10 seconds, it's all our own goals, our own celebration, and people would definitely admire you for that. Now, I've called the podcast Why Didn't Anyone Tell Me This? And we've heard lots of different responses from my guests. Have you had people say to you, why didn't anyone tell me this before? Why didn't I know this? Maybe something to do with swimming.
About yeah, I do hear an awful lot. I wished I'd done this 20 years ago when I first decided to do it. Why didn't I do this sooner is something that happens a lot to people. And I always say to them, don't beat yourself up about this. we all come to different things in life depending on whatever path we've chosen, sometimes accidentally chosen, or sometimes we stumble upon a path. Like somebody's on holiday and there's 20 Bluetits on the beach at White Sands laughing and guffawing after their swim, and you come across them and you say, who are you? What are you? We're the Bluetits. Oh, I think we've got Bluetits in Bude. And then they go home and they join the Bluetits and they say, why didn't I do this before? I've seen these people swimming for the past 3 years and I never do it. And so that happens. And why didn't I realize that I was going to get such a buzz from this? So my answer is, you found this because you needed to find this at this time in your life. So I suppose, yes, I suppose that's one. But now I think with swimming, we're constantly telling, it's everywhere, isn't it? We're all telling people, we love it all so much that we're infectious. People, we tell everybody, don't we, that we're doing it. But I think that is probably the one. Why didn't I do this sooner? Why didn't I realize that this was so good? What worried me? Why was I worried so much about swimming and about my body and la-di-da? So I suppose that's the one that I hear a lot. Why didn't anybody tell me about this, or why didn't I find this sooner?
That's perfect, and I
Really
do agree that
question, but...
it's such a great empowering thing for people that do it. We get so much from it. And Sian, you've done so much in your life with all the challenges you've done, but especially setting up the Bluetits. So what motivates you to do all these things rather than just sit on the sofa and not do anything?
Yeah, I don't know. I sometimes wish I was one of those people that sat on the sofa and knew every soap that was on the TV at the moment and all the characters' names. And I was talking to my daughter about this yesterday because all my kids are a bit like that, but my two daughters are particularly like that. And the eldest one, very, very much so. And we were saying yesterday how we think in our fantasy minds, wouldn't it be wonderful to be that person that never does anything? And then we're like, nah. I just like being active. If my brain isn't active, I am still very susceptible to depression. I haven't, it's ever since I started running and everything else, I haven't had depression, but I have that kind of brain. I have a very, very creative mind. And sometimes I say I've never had any depression since my original bout many years ago. But sometimes my brain shuts off. So I like silversmithing, and I like creating animations, and I love photography and videography, and I love walking and swimming and all these things. And my brain sometimes gets so full, it shuts off for a couple of days, and I will just hide myself away. And I just have this like 48 hours where I don't do anything. And then I start to think, oh no, here we go. Oh no. Depression's coming again. Oh my goodness me. I really go into this incredibly deep, dark hole. And it doesn't last for longer than 2 days, but I can never remember that. When it happens again, I still think, oh, here we go. Oh no, here we go. But then I come back out again. And off goes the brain again, creating, doing, being with other people. And I find it's a buzz doing things for other people. I don't understand how you can get through life and never do anything for nothing for other people. It is it's a drug to me. It's that lovely thing by being kind to somebody else and doing something for nothing for somebody else makes me feel good. So you can turn that round and say it's a very selfish thing, that you're doing things for other people. I love it. I just love seeing other people. It can be a tiny thing that you do for somebody. You put your hand out for them at a swim, and they grab onto your hand and they squeeze it, and then afterwards they say thank you. I mean, that is such a buzz, isn't it? Where you've done something for somebody, you've made their day a little bit better than it was before. And so, on a grander scale, the Bluetits thing is a buzz for me. Yes, I have a whole team around me. I only do the fun stuff in the Bluetits, like talking to you on podcasts. I don't do the boring stuff like working out some glitch on the website. Gail does that. So I'm very in a fortunate position now where I can go out there and do these fun things. I couldn't, if my brain isn't constantly busy. Oh, I don't know what I do. I just don't know what I do. I love having lots of different things. I love challenges. Not so much challenges now. I've done that. I now like watching other people challenge themselves. And if I can help them in any small way to achieve that challenge, if that's the first 50-meter swim they ever do at an event, I will do that. And that is more than enough for me now, is seeing other people. It's incredible. It's infectious. And it just makes me feel so damn good seeing other people happy. I mean, it's got to be good for you, isn't it? It's
Yes,
got to
yes.
be.
Quite a few people actually have said that helping other people has made them happy. Which comes to my next question. I've asked many people this question, and some people struggle to answer it, but I don't think you will. What makes you happy, and where is your happy place? I think I might know what you might say. You might
Yeah.
surprise me.
Yeah. No, and I'm not going to surprise you, I'm afraid. My my happy place is being, well, okay. One of my really happiest places then is when I go away on a tits on tour. So I love swimming here because we never have the same people here. We've always got different people that come in, and so there are always new and interesting people to get to know, and maybe help swim or whatever. But one of my happiest is when I go away on a tits on tour, because then I'm often surrounded people that I have never met before. And there's crazy people, there's kind people, there's loud people, there's people who scare the shit out of me sometimes. One was when I went swimming, and I said, "Where are we going?" It was like, I don't know, it was like May, it was cold in the sea. "Where are we going?" And they said, "Oh, we always swim round the corner and we jump off the cliff." And I'm like, "Really?" And I was thinking, it's freezing. And it was just this incredible bunch of people who then do all these exercises on the beach to warm up, and then they all have a little bit of brandy when they're warming up. And I don't drink, and they were a bit mortified by that, because they bought me a special brandy to warm up, and I was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I'm teetotal." And they're like, "What?" And it was this wonderful, full of triathletes, full of men triathletes in this group, which is very unusual. And I'm never ever not surprised wherever I go. I went to one and they'd created a throne, that they sat me on the throne, and they'd created this crazy crown to put on my head. And then I went to another one where nobody knew who I was. Absolutely nobody knew who I was. And then they were all looking at me like I was a bit weird. And then they said, "Oh, you must be new. Welcome to the Bluetits." And I said, "Oh, thank you. That's very kind." And they said, "Where have you come from?" And anyhow, where I'd come from was like 300 miles away. And they thought about it and said, "You've come an awful long way for a swim." I said, "Yes, I have." And that was it. They had no idea who I was. It was brilliant. So I swam with them. And I didn't tell them who I was either, because then I'd left it too long, and I thought then it would be really rude if I told them who I was. So but I love it. I love meeting new people, and I love the all the different types of people in the group. So my happy place is going off to a completely new tits on tour swim in a different place, and still there 3 hours later, talking rubbish with them as the sun sets. That has got to be the best thing. And then I'll always hear a story, one life-changing story, which will always make me absolutely, I love it. I love it that the story is so unbelievable, how this person's life has been changed just from joining the Bluetits. And how could that ever fail to make me feel absolutely amazing? And I always get then compelled to keep going, because, like running any business, there are downsides to working with people in businesses. So whereas we're talking about the Bluetits all being this wonderful, happy, jolly community, there are over 100,000 people in this community. You are going to have scraps and fighting, and you are going to have things that are said to you that are unpleasant. And sometimes they all come in one great big dollop. And we'll have a really bad week at HQ. And often I will end up going to swim with the new group after this has happened. And then that joy comes back where you realize it's always just a tiny minority who cause trouble. But that tiny minority at the time can make you feel crap. You know, they can make you feel that everything you do is not worth anything. And then somebody will come along in the Bluetits or a group I'll go and swim with, and it all comes back. And the events are like that because, of course, all HQ go and run the events voluntarily. You know, they go there and work for the weekend. And we all come back from events saying the same thing. That's why we do it. Now we know why we keep doing this is because of this, and this. So happy place. Yeah. Tits on Tour is my happy place.
Fantastic. And yeah, we all have to take the ups and the downs. And hopefully
Yeah.
more ups and downs. And the very last question, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, my younger self. I suppose it's a bit like everybody would say, don't I didn't think I fitted in anywhere when I was younger. And I didn't really think I fitted in anywhere until the blue tits started to grow. So I was an only child, lived on a farm, and I had a very active mother who loved the outdoors, and she always used to say, try something once. If you don't like it, never try it again. But come on, let's go and try it. So we were always off doing stuff together, and that wasn't quite the norm in the community that I was brought up in. So I was always kind of viewed as being a little bit of an outsider then. Maybe I wasn't, but I felt like I was. You know, I never felt that I fitted in. And I never really thought that I thought I was pretty good at singing and acting. My ego was quite massive there. But in in life in general, I always felt like that outsider. And I never, I never was. You know, I don't think any of us are really. I don't know. We worry a lot then, don't we? It's like coming along to a swim and you can't go because you think you're too tall and thin. Actually, when nobody's actually looking at you. And I think that would probably be my advice, is that we are all actually very consumed by our own insecurities, that we are good people are not looking at other people and going, well, look at the state of that. They're not really. And I think as you're growing up, the pressure to conform, to look good, to be the same, to not stand out. And even though I was slightly eccentric when I was younger and did kind of stand out in certain ways, I was never really comfortable doing it. I was thought, oh, you're such a weirdo. You know, why are you such a weirdo? So my advice would be now is don't worry about it, because nobody actually noticed. It was all in your head. You thought you were a weirdo. You thought you never fitted in. But actually, nobody was that bothered. You did fit in. You know, you fitted in with your own community. I never fitted in with the cool people in school. I wasn't the cool person. So I always wanted to be part of that cool set. And now I've kind of also realized that they're not necessarily the best set, because when I talk to a lot of blue tits, and I realize how we've all come from these different backgrounds, different upbringings, different ages, different styles in our life, different jobs, different careers, different amounts of money that we've all got. You know, we all just fit together just fine when we stop worrying about I'm not rich enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not whatever enough, you know. And I love that nobody really knows what other blue tits do. Sometimes it could be 2 years before you find out what somebody does, because that's not what we're there for, is it? We're not there judging each other. All we want is for people to turn up for our swims, because the more people that turn up, the more fun we have. And so, yeah, my younger self worried far too much about what I looked like and what I had and whether I fitted in, whereas my older self, I know I fit in, because I don't need to conform to fit in. I just fit in. And if you don't like me, then that's not my problem, actually. You know, if I'm just being me, and I'm not being mean to you in any way, I mean, I'm just being me, you don't like me, that's okay not to like me. And I think that, again, is part of the blue tits, isn't it? We don't like everybody that turns up to the swim. But we're not being mean to them. We just choose, oh, I can't sit next to Sarah. She talks too loud. Oh, no, she always talks too much. She always talks about her bloody dogs. I can't be asked about listening to her dogs today. So you go, all right, Sarah, hi. but you don't necessarily go and sit next to her because you don't want to listen to whatever. And that's the joy of the Blue Tits group, isn't it? That you find somebody else to although saying that as well, there's also sometimes there's people that come along and I think, oh, I'm not sure about you, and then 6 months later, because you've given them the chance to be themselves, you actually find out they're okay, because you'll always have people in the group who bring cakes, you'll always have the caring ones, you'll always have the gregarious ones, the brave ones, the ones who know about water safety. You've got such a diverse mix of people in there, and actually that person over there who you weren't sure about, turns out they're a really caring person. And that one day when you needed somebody just to hold your hand and say, are you all right? It was that person over there. And you gave them that chance. And it's all just so lovely. I love that. So yeah, younger me, stop worrying about fitting in. You fit in just fine.
You do, Sean. We all do. And on behalf
Yeah,
of
we do.
on behalf of all of the Blue Tits, I wanted to thank you again. It's been so life-changing for many of us. We don't care all the things you said about, we don't care. We don't care what we look like. We don't care how loud we are. If we swear, we don't swear. How far we swim, we put on our costume and get in the water. We all look, our hair goes no matter what we do. No point putting makeup on. Clothes don't matter. We're just having a beautiful, wonderful time. So, Sian, it's been an absolute pleasure, and on behalf of all the Blue Tits, thank you, and keep going, and we look forward to swimming with you.
Thank you.
Everyone will look forward to swimming with
Yeah,
you at some point, and we'll
thank
know that
you.
it will make you happy.
Thank you. Yeah, it will. Really happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.